Greetings, system failure listeners. Nate here and Brian over there. Brian, how are you doing on a frigid Sunday morning in Maine? It's not January. We've just turned the calendar over to February. So how are you doing on a frigid February Sunday morning in Maine?
I'm doing all right, Nate. How are you?
Good. I think I've acclimated to the cold. It's like I'll just have like a regular jacket on, not even like the thick winter parka. And I'll be like, it seems warmer out today than yesterday. It doesn't seem so bad out. And then I look at the thermostat, at the thermometer, and it's like, 8 degrees, 13 degrees. And I'm like, wow, I've really acclimated to some insane cold temperatures. Same thing happened when I used to live in Florida. I would get acclimated to the crazy heat, which besets the swamps of Florida between like March and October every year. And then when I would get on a plane and come back to Maine, I wouldn't be able to believe how cold it felt, even though it was just, in the 20s or 30s or even in the 40s, it seemed chilly. So it's interesting how your body, morphs and adapts to the climate you're in. And by the way, a little sidebar on that, I swear that finger and toenails grow faster in the Florida heat and much slower in the cold weather. That's just a little anecdotal. I have no idea if that's really true or not. That's just how it seems to yours truly. Anyway, it's been frigid. I think it's about 8 degrees right now, and we have been stuck. The mercury has been stuck in the, around 0 degrees in the mystical Fahrenheit units of temperature measurement for like weeks now. When was the last time we even touched 20 degrees? It's been a minute, hey?
It's been a lot of 13-degree days.
Yeah.
My car is in the shop, so I've been walking around Portland, at least for the past couple days.
Is that how you're getting to work every day?
Yes.
Man, that is brutal.
Well, really, it's only been like 3 days, I suppose. So it was like just Friday. But I walk to work that day, and I plan to walk to work on Monday.
What happened to your wagon? Did you just start seeing the temperature meter start, like the thermostat in your car on your dashboard start heating up, and like the car was going to overheat?
Yeah, well, I was driving down to Biddeford to have breakfast at the Palace Diner with a friend there, and on the way down, like the light kind of went on as I was almost there, and I was like, well, maybe it just won't come back on.
Usually is the first thought I have to solve the problem too.
And then driving back, it came back on again, and I was watching the temperature gauge, and nothing seemed to be out of sorts. But then when I parked it in the garage, some steam was coming off of it.
Oh,
like,
man.
Geez.
Yeah.
And then I went and checked it later, and the coolant reservoir is completely empty. So it must have sprung a leak somewhere.
Yeah, that'll happen, especially in the winter. You get a hole punched in your radiator somewhere. The manifold, it's in the forward part of your engine compartment. There's going to be a chunk taken out of it somewhere, and you'll just drop in, coolant wherever you drive. That's hard times, but hopefully the shop can get you back on the road soon enough. In the meantime, our Boston Bruins have an outdoor game tonight down in Raymond James Stadium in nice and warm Tampa, Florida. Obviously, Tampa touchdown Tommy abandoned us here in New England and went down to play there at Raymond James with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, much to my sadness and chagrin. But it'll be interesting to see the Bruins playing an outdoor game. That's fun, but I'll be coming around here to pick you up so we can go to our dad's house and watch the game because your car is in the shop, eh?
Yes.
You'll have to let me know if you need to ride anywhere else while your car's in the repair depot. But I can come around and pick you up for those things too.
Well, just speaking of touchdown, Tommy, it's not so bad now that the Patriots are back in the Super Bowl again, eh?
Yeah, Tom Brady who? Yeah, it's like we're in that weird week in between the AFC and NFC championship games and the Super Bowl, and I just love that whole 2-week lead up to the Super Bowl when the Pats are in it. You really 2 weeks is more than enough time to get whipped into a frenzy. The latest news I saw out of Tampa is that the Pats will be out of Santa Clara, California. The latest news out of Santa Clara is that the Pats will be sporting their all-white get-ups, for this Super Bowl. Well, that's kind of fun.
It worked in Denver, eh?
Yeah. The Pats are 9-0 on the road this season. They have a perfect road record, so that's why they're going to go with their road get-ups. That's just very interesting to me.
Well, they're also 3.5-point underdogs, I believe.
I've been watching the betting lines, and I finally jumped on my bet when the Pats, you could bet the Pats money line at plus 195. I was hoping to get plus 200, but it just keeps bouncing back and forth between 190 and 195. So I thought that, getting twice your getting a payout that's twice what you're risking. So you get like a 3x on your initial on whatever you bet. Seemed like good odds to me, but it would seem also pointless to hold out for 200. For plus 200 when plus 195 almost as good. So I'll bet 50 to win $147. So if the Pats manage to pull this off, my DraftKings account will be higher than it's ever been before.
Yeah. Well, I think that being an underdog in the Super Bowl is, well, it's certainly better to be, like, if you're the favorite and you lose, it's a catastrophe.
Right. All the pressure's on. Yeah.
And then if you're the underdog, if you win, it's a huge upset. Or if you lose, it's okay. But the System Failure Podcast brought to you by FanDuel.
They say that these betting apps are an absolute scourge on society, and that it's just draining the bank accounts, particularly of young Gen Z lads. But I don't know. For me, my DraftKings experience has been overwhelmingly positive. I started my DraftKings account almost a year ago now, in April of 2024. And you and I, were watching the NHL playoffs and putting a few bets here and there. So I put in $20, and we did, well enough to where I got up to where I had $40 in my DraftKings account. And then I took the original $20 back out, and I've been playing with house money ever since. We're almost back to another, the Super Bowl is going to come and go, and then it will have the Olympics, and then it will be time for the NHL playoffs once again. And my strategy is pretty simple. Just bet $5 on the Red Sox and Bruins games and $10 on the Patriots games, just on the money line. And I don't go in for the minus 3.5, the lines or anything like that. And, when the Red Sox have an unexpectedly good year, as they did last year, and the Pats have an unexpectedly good year, as they did this year, well, my DraftKings account is just blowing up. So it's fun to be playing with house money, and it's fun to have, I guess $100 or, hopefully a couple $100 after the Super Bowl to play with here. So I don't know. It's really worked out well for me. It just lends a little intrigue to the Bruins, Red Sox, and Patriots telecasts, and so it makes for really good, TV to watch, couple 3 nights a week, and then really it has a way of focusing your mind on the game when you've got $5 riding on the Red Sox, for example, whereas you might not really care about crucial game number 47 of the Red Sox season otherwise of 182 games. So anyway, I don't know.
I hope the executives at FanDuel are listening.
I think if you just use it you don't go in for some crazy part. Now, you've been known to go in for some wild parlays, but you get paid out huge money when they hit, but they're really hard to hit though, eh?
Yeah. I guess, it worked one year really well, and then never again.
You hit one parlay this postseason, this NFL postseason, didn't you? Or did you had like a 3-team tease maybe?
Well, it was like a 3-team tease.
Yeah.
And it was like a $20 3-team tease, and I don't know, the obvious things happened, and then I ran it back, and I lost. So I guess just betting on Boston sports teams individually.
Yeah, I remember the second week after you hit that parlay, you were hit that tease, you were thinking that the Niners, the San Francisco 49ers, might at least turn in a reasonable performance. I can't remember what you had them teased to. Was it like minus 10 or something?
It's
or
probably
plus 10?
Plus 13.
Plus 13? Yeah, if they could just have turned in a respectable performance, you would have been fine. But they turned in a shameful performance and lost by even more than the 13 you had them teased up to.
Yeah, well, the thing about making teases is they sound unlosable, and so they're good for the sports books in that way.
Well, I think I like my strategy much better. It gives you a little bit of juice in the local football, hockey, and baseball concerns, without breaking the bank. If you can just use it that way, it seems to be a great tool. But even though your wild teases and parlays haven't paid off, it's not like you've gotten sucked into terrible gambling addiction. Eh? I mean, you seem like your parlay, your tease went bust, and you just didn't bet again for the rest of the football playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a free bet from my bookie.
Yeah, okay. I see.
But man, obviously, I think the evidence shows that betting on sports, it's like dealing with the devil, and it's probably incredibly risky that you could get addicted and, start chasing your losses and bet the whole mortgage and your future.
Yeah, I joke with the lovely Tracy, my fiance, about putting the rent money on the Bruins game. It would make for one wild, television broadcast. And I think I may have even said it on this pod before, but I suspect that once you have a taste of that crazy action, betting a measly $5 on the Red Sox to win on their money line might not be as compelling as it once was. So I try not to, put the rent money Just put the $5 for the Bruins, $5 for the Red Sox, $10 for the Patriots. It really you win some, you lose some, and hopefully you can come out a little bit ahead. At the end of the season. I don't know, that strategy is working really well, and it's not turning me into a crazed addict, but it is dangerous. Like legalized marijuana. You're like, do you dare touch it? Because you could get a terrible addiction on. Same with the nicotine pouches, or drinking beers or anything. You can just get a terrible addiction. Eating candies even is addictive. All of these things are of a kind, of a type, in my mind anyway.
Well, it gets your brain to explode with chemical reactions, basically.
Yes, yeah. You don't need a substance per se. Right? The betting apps work exactly in that way. You get so you're chasing those dopamine spikes, right? I suspect it's not really the THC or the alcohol or the nicotine or it's like the dopamine rush you get from these things that really is what your brain gets addicted to. Like I remember Trace used to drink Diet Cokes at the McDonald's. That was her addiction. And I remember noticing that you could just see that, and I was commenting on it at the time, you could see that her brain was lighting up when you drive through the drive-thru, even before you've taken a hit off the Coke, right? The anticipation of the Diet Coke is what's causing your brain to pump out that dopamine. So it's really not about the substance itself. Addiction is more about those endogenous chemicals, those endogenous juices flowing throughout your brain. I do. I mean, I definitely felt concerned when I first started using a betting app. Like, this could be the end of the line. You could become a terrible betting degenerate, But anyway, I seem to be able to just sip from the DraftKings without having to guzzle it. It's been great, and I'm looking forward to that outdoor game tonight.
All right.
Really looking forward to the Super Bowl a week from today also. Having $50 on the line is a huge rush compared to the usual 10. That's going to be awesome.
It should be a roller coaster of emotion, huh?
Yeah.
You won't be able to believe it when they call offsides on the Patriots.
Yeah, or the Pats will get some ticky-tack, defensive, pass interference call, and you just will be beside yourself. It's going to be a great experience. I do love it when the Pats are in the Super Bowl, man. It's the best.
All right. Well, speaking of dangerous addictions, you ordered some of Tucker Carlson's nicotine pouches, huh?
Yeah, we ordered, 2 weeks ago, I guess, I ordered a box. You can't just buy one of Tucker Carlson's Alp nicotine pouches. You have to buy 5. It's like the minimum order. So that's what I did. And so we got these, I got these nicotine pouches. I gave one to you, Brian. And I just wonder, I don't want to taint your review. I want you to tip your hand first. What are you thinking about these Alp nicotine pouches as opposed to the other ones we tried, the Zin flavored ones that are behind every gas station checkout counter with the dangerous products area?
Well, I think the Alps are quite a bit less nauseating, and they don't have that fake sugar or something that the Zins do, and they're a little bit moist when you touch them, and so which is maybe, I think you kind of don't want them to be moist, but it seems more natural or something. So I would have to give them a favorable review.
Huh?
And quite a bit. You definitely have to order a tin of 12 packs of these things, rather than getting the individual Zins at the gas station. It's
a lot more cost effective. The Alp the cylindrical Alp containers come with 20 pouches apiece, whereas the Zins come with a measly 15. And furthermore, Commandant Mills, our unfortunate governor of the state of Maine, it's not her fault, it's the legislature really, but they slapped a ridiculous sin tax on the Zin pouches, so that it's $10 and change for a container, and it comes to $5 and change for an Alp container. And you get 20 Alps, as mentioned, versus 15 Zins. But I don't know, man. I feel like I don't love the Alp. I don't love the Alp as much as the Zins.
What?
I feel like they don't give you the same. They don't really do much. It's true they don't make you nauseous, but they don't seem to deliver any kind of nicotine, any kind of kick at all. Versus the Zins. So I don't know. I don't know. I guess I was thinking about if I was going to do any more nicotine pouches to go back to the Zinages and turn my nose at Tucker Carlson and his Alps. Another thing about the Alps, I believe they're made in India, whereas the Zins are made in the United States. So it's just always good to buy American products when and if you can. So I don't know. Do you think? Would you say, Brian, that you are going to be an Alp devotee from here on out?
Man, it's just hard. There is something where it's like less nauseating, but therefore less impactful of an experience. So I can see what you're saying there, but man, the Zins are just so often just leave you you're in a state of shame, or you're just like, oh, that was horrendous.
Yeah.
Like never again.
I have that experience every time I get a Zin. Every time I've ever gotten a Zin container, I have sworn off Zins. Once the container's gone, I'm like, oh, never again. But then like a week later, you get, a strange idea, a funny idea, a capital idea that you should go back to the gas station and pick up another cylinder of those Zins. But yeah, I know what you mean. The Zins are so terrible that they kind of make me not want to be addicted to them. They make me want to steer clear of them for weeks at a time. But the Alps are so watery and ineffective that they make me want to steer clear of them for weeks at a time, that they're not really compelling. So I don't know. It's an interesting quandary, I guess. I wonder if we could get some middle of the road. Maybe some of those other products are better or in between the two extremes here.
Yeah, I mean, Tucker Carlson is always loading up with like 3 or 4 of these Alp pouches, apparently. And that seems much more feasible with the Alps than the Zins. But you make a good point about how the Zins are sort of self-regulating. It's like this. It's like this abusive relationship that you get a beating and you have to go away, but then you start thinking fondly of the Zins once again.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like, man. You're like, all right, I can't keep doing this to myself. The Zins are a little more cruel than the Alps, and so, but maybe that's for the best. It'll keep you down at the battered shelter and not coming back for more punishment. Yeah, I don't know. I do see that. I think that the hangovers are really valuable. If you should be so unfortunate as to drink 4 Guinnesses, then the next day you'll be like, man, I don't feel so great. Having more Guinnesses seems like a terrible idea. That's why weed is really pernicious. There's no hangover. And so it's easy to chain together multiple days of pot smoking, which is just that's just not a good place to go to. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna advocate for going to the Zin route versus the Alp route, even though the Alps are a lot more pleasant.
All right, that sounds crazy. All right, well, on switching gears a bit, I've been playing a lot of Magic the Gathering of late, right? And so one thing that it's gotten me into is using the Discord, right?
Yeah.
You ever go on Discord, Nate?
Well, every once in a while, a business will use Discord as part of their thing. So I have a login, and sometimes I use it. But if I was going to say, what is Discord to someone who's maybe never heard of it, maybe a system failure listener who's unfamiliar, Discord is just basically a chat app, but it whacks up your chats into multiple channels. So if you made a Discord, you could make with your friends. You could have with the same group of people, you could have a Discord for Magic and another Discord for the Patriots discussion. Anyway, at any rate, it is basically just a chat app, but with multiple channels. And so a lot of companies use a Discord channel to communicate with their consumers and what have you. So what about Magic has made you think about Discord, though? That's an interesting connection.
Yeah, well, one thing is if you wanted to discuss Magic the Gathering like 10 or 15 years ago, right, you would go to a forum like mtgthesource.com, and it's just people posting. You'd have like threads to discuss your various decks or other topics and whatnot.
This is where Reddit comes out of. It's a message board.
Yeah, but now on the Discord, I think the most exciting thing about Discord is it's just super easy to set up a room where one person, you can watch one person like play online or something, and then have like 7 other people in the chat. You can just talking on microphones and whatnot, so you don't even have to chat. So I mean, like Teams, I guess is I don't even know why anyone would need Teams. Like companies should just use Discord and have their employees chat or communicate that way. But I guess the other thing is like, do you ever try to talk to someone on the phone? Like normally these days, like a regular phone call on your cell phone.
Man, I can't even remember the last time I had a regular phone call.
Well, maybe it's just completely untenable, right? I mean, if you start talking, it's like a radio, a walkie-talkie, where you have to like say over, because if you're talking when they're talking, they can't hear you. like the fidelity of the connection is like 100% higher. But I would just have to imagine that Discord has huge like revolutionary potential if you don't use, like if you wanted to organize like a people's march or something. Maybe people are already doing this and we're just not clued in. I don't know, like maybe this is how they coordinate like anti-ICE responses or whatever. But man, it seems like it should be like if you could get like a following of people like meeting up on the Discord and talking about things. It seems like it has infinite potential for like societal organization. But unlike Reddit, I don't know. It's not like it's not like you're gonna have like bots and shills like upvoting things. It's just not really that kind of platform.
Right.
So
the messages in Discord are listed sequentially, not according to an upvote score, if I have that right.
Yeah.
So it is like a regular texting, messaging app in that regard. And the problem with Reddit is the subreddits have moderators, and the moderators are often people who get the tiny bit of power that is afforded them by being a Reddit mod goes right to their heads, and they end up trying to shape being the gatekeepers of what can get posted in the various subreddits. So I've had this trouble trying to like promote system failure ideas on Reddit is really tough. That's why we have our own system failure subreddit, because like trying to a lot of mods don't want you to be promoting any kind of a product in their channels. They're very sensitive to self-promotion. You can see why. You can be sympathetic that you don't want your sub to devolve into just people promoting their various projects. But like, it almost depends on what mod is working that day. Whether or not your post is going to be acceptable. Trying to figure out. Trying to jump through whatever hoops they've got for you. So yeah, and then there's also the problem of paid shills and bots on Reddit. It's just an absolute propaganda. You just can't know that the people that you are talking to are actual people. But Discord is connected to your phone number, right? So you have to have a real phone number and a real email to sign up for Discord. So hopefully, maybe it's not so fraught with bots and things, and I don't know.
You do need an invite link too, so it's not like randos can just swarm your discussion on Marxist politics.
Well, have you gotten into any other Discord channels besides Magic the Gathering, like oriented Discord channels? Have you got any other? Have you branched out into other? Like, can you find good things about, say, the Patriots or the Bruins on there?
Man, I'm sure that there are, but I have not.
Interesting.
But I don't know, like if you could just, it'd be easy to like set up like some kind of nightly discussion or something, or like host people and just talk about stuff like a reasonable, not the insane brainwash politics that you see on like YouTube spiking the algorithm or something.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should have some kind of a system failure presence on Discord. I don't know. My only hesitation is like another chat app on my phone. Like I already have WhatsApp. But I've got, for everyone in the United States, I've got the regular Google Messages. And then for everyone who's outside the United States, they all communicate on WhatsApp. So if you've got European friends, they're going to be messaging you via WhatsApp. And so I've got WhatsApp for that. And I get messages on there from South Africans and Europeans that Trace and I have met on our travels. And so Discord would be like a third messaging app. Well, if I could just get one app for my incoming messages, that would be great. I like to keep things simple. I like to just have one and just really keep things as bare bones, as simple as possible. I don't like to multiply contingencies beyond necessity. Isn't that how William of Ockham put Occam's razor? Isn't that how we put it? Multiply contingencies beyond necessity. But I do think that Discord has potential. In the few times I've come up against it, or had to use it for one reason or another, I've been impressed.
Probably, like a lot of people are hip to the Discord. Like I know some of our esteemed podcast guests, use the Discord a lot with their chums, and so I suppose we're late to the party. But I'm sure there are some people listening who are even later to the Discord party than
yes,
we are.
Undoubtedly. Do you want to try to use Discord to talk to each other, or just setting up these podcasts and logistics for various things, or are you still happy with your Google Messages for that purpose?
I guess what we're doing now seems to work, but perhaps we can evolve a platform someday.
All right, well, let's put a bookmark in that. That certainly seems like something worth thinking more about. All right, Brian, you got one more topic for us this morning, and it has to do with chimichurri sauce, I'm given to understand.
Yeah. Well, my wagon's broken down.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of great grocery options within walking distance. Although, yeah, you'd be like walking with like a bag full of groceries anyway. So the best thing to do is to walk on down to the Chipotle. And, for the price of a mere $1, you can upgrade your burrito bowl with a little container of chimichurri sauce. And it seems that they do make it fresh there. It's like some ground up herb and some kind of oil or something. And it kind of does make your whole bowl taste like chimichurri sauce. But I think in terms of the juice being worth the squeeze, yeah, I think you got to pay the $1 for the chimichurri sauce. It's totally worth it.
Well, what exactly is chimichurri sauce? I mean, it's worth the extra $1. It looks delicious on the ad. I can see that it's green, but what is in chimichurri sauce? Could I make it myself and throw it on the carnitas that I'm inclined to make for the Patriots game days? Is it something that we could easily, gin up?
That's a good question, Nate. I'm going to pull it up on ChatGPT. Let's see. It's a bright, herby, garlicky sauce from Argentina and Uruguay, famous for topping a grilled steak, but it's great on almost anything. So it looks like it's parsley, garlic, vinegar, and olive oil.
That's it? Oh, I could easily make that. Well, all right. I propose to you that I make the carnitas again for the Patriots Super Bowl game day 1 week hence, and then instead of the green salsa verde from Cholula that I usually get, we'll make some of this chimichurri sauce instead.
Well, you might want the salsa also.
Oh, okay. But doesn't it look exactly like green salsa when on the Chipotle ad, or is it much thinner?
Well, really, it's like a red sauce for the most part.
It's red? Oh, am I picturing the wrong sauce from the Chipotle ads then? It's not... Well, it's got parsley, so it's green.
It's a reddish oil, but there's like green herb floating in it.
All right. Well, so you're quite. You've been on a chimichurri sauce bender the past week or so with your car in the shop with a busted radiator.
Oh yeah, the past couple of days in any case. But yeah, I mean, it definitely livens up the Chipotle experience, which grows stale after many years. And so you can just get some Sky Rizzy to address the ulcerative colitis that comes with eating the Chipotle.
Yeah, well, we'll do a healthy version of this chimichurri sauce next Sunday, and that will be hopefully we can, our poor rectums will not be any the worse for wear. That's really funny. Right. So you're giving this sauce your full endorsement, it sounds like.
Yeah, I guess there's red wine vinegar and red pepper flakes maybe, and that's what gives it a reddish hue. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Well, it does sound very tempting. There's nothing like a garlicky sauce to pour all over your delicious meat. That's the greatest combo there is, man.
Yes. All right.
All right. Well, a couple other topics for today. I was talking with the lovely Tracy, aforementioned, my fiance, and we were talking about what happens. What is it that the upper class has planned for the rest of us? And we've talked about on this podcast many times the testimony of a certain Catherine Austin Fitts. You remember she was the Assistant Secretary to Housing and Urban Development under the first Bush, George H.W. Bush, under his administration. And she just talks about her belief that the global elites are preparing another system for us to migrate into once the capitalist system inevitably collapses. They're aware. In other words, the wealthy are aware of the Marxian idea that capitalism has a countdown clock to disaster built into it. And in anticipation of that, they've got a whole new financial system all set to migrate us all into once it becomes obvious to everyone that the system has an expiration date and not just the lucky few at the top. And like Trace's point was like, well, why don't, wouldn't they just want to kill off the rest of us? Like, what is it about, why would they, they could just introduce some super virus that, whacks most of the world population. Once they no longer, once technology can substitute for enough workers, the rest of us just become useless mouths to feed. And I don't know, my first thought was that, it seems like there's something more going on here. It really does seem like we live in some kind of a shadowy illusion a la Plato in his cave. We don't have a line of sight into actual reality. What we have is a series of thin slices of some greater multidimensional manifold, and we're experiencing them one moment at a time. These slices, like a movie, you sit in a movie and you experience one frame of the movie at a time. but really the entire movie reel exists in some existential or epistemological sense. And I don't know, the thing that I went to that gives me a ton of hope is this repeated phenomenon where lights in the sky, UFOs, UAPs, what have you, shut down nuclear weapons, right? It's something that's been documented not just in the United States, but in countries, other countries in the world. So, Brian, I asked you to just bring up on ChatGPT, some of the examples of this. I wonder if you could just give us a quick bullet point list with a brief, one sentence description for each. But this is a ongoing theme in ufology, or in the and it's just interesting that the UFOs can just disable our catastrophic apocalyptic technology. It seems to be something that they're capable of. Brian, what does ChatGPT provide us with?
Well, it looks like ChatGPT has 5 specific examples. There's Malmstrom AFB.
Air Force Base.
In Montana in 1967. UFO activity coincided with multiple Minutemen ICBMs going offline. In 1966, at Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota, a UFO was reported in nuclear missile systems experienced disruptions or abnormal behavior. F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Wyoming, unidentified aerial activity occurred near missile fields and was treated as a serious security concern. RAF Bentwaters
Royal Air Force Base, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. In England, Suffolk. U.S. Air Force personnel reported a UFO incident near bases believed to have had nuclear weapon storage, with suggestions of interference or heightened alerts. And then a Soviet missile base incident in 1982 in the Ukraine. A UFO allegedly appeared over a Soviet missile site, and a launch sequence began and then stopped. That must have been dramatic.
There must have been a hair-raising night in 1982. Wow.
And it just mentions just various incidents during the Cold War over nuclear storage areas and UFOs observed near nuclear test sites and convoys as well.
I see there's a note here that says, the Malmstrom 1967 example is the quintessential, the flagship example, according to ChatGPT, of missiles being shut down by, during UFO activity. So I don't know. It does seem like there's some kind of, it does, when you go bowling and there's like inflatable bumpers in the gutters there, for the kids, you don't want the kids to scream or get discouraged or what have you. So they can blow up those inflatable bumpers, and then you can bowl without your ball going into the gutter. The ball will at least hit some pins at the end of the lane somehow. It does seem like it seems like those inflatable gutter guards exist for the bizarre game of international geopolitics that we play or that we have access to. So that gives me a little bit of hope there. It does seem like the human story has this shape to it. It's like this quintessential or archetypical Platonic ascent, where we're trying to break out of the illusory, shadowy, reality that we live in. And the way that we're doing that is generations of people, generation after generation, all these layers of generation, each one makes a little bit of progress, it's like we can only experience one thin slice of time at a time. But if you can zoom out, if you can imagine observing all of time at once, in the way that, rather than listening to a symphony, you might look at the sheet music and be able to see all of Beethoven's Fifth all at once in one glance, or at least as much of the symphony as can fit on one page. And that if you could see all of time, if you could see time as a physical dimension like length, width, or height, instead of a stopwatch dimension, that you would see that the human story has like a sculpture with a certain geometry to it, and that we're aspiring to something. We're on some kind of a journey from point A to point B. This is the exact opposite of a cyclical conception of time, like the one that the Hindu have, or like the ancients, like the Egyptians and the Babylonians, who thought in terms of just endless cycles that bring you back to the same point, right? It does seem like we're on some kind of a trajectory, and maybe, I don't think that the billionaires who manage to own enough property to live off all the rest of our labor, right? I don't think that they really have the ability to influence that shape to influence that geometry as much as they might like. They may have a lot of money in our current economic game, but I do not believe they have the power to just kill the rest of us or to control the rest of us. Like, I gotta think that they're the best laid plans of mice and men, right? Their best plans are going to come up against this, like, human destiny that's suggested by the teleology of our trajectory, if that makes sense. Like, they're going to come up against it seems like there's the fact that these UFOs are shutting down on, catastrophic nuclear weapons with some reliability seems to suggest that there really is some kind of, though we cannot really perceive it, that there's some kind of purpose to the human trajectory, some kind of a goal we're striving towards here, and that the UFOs aren't going to let us blow ourselves up over some idiotic diplomatic problem, and that there is some reason for human life to be striving its way out of the muck. What is it that Tennyson wrote? The dragons of the prime tearing at each other in the slime. We evolved from that to this. We're some weird transitional form between animals and angels, but we're on a journey somewhere, and something out there seems to want to make sure that we complete that journey versus having some veering off in some catastrophic side quest or having our bowling ball go in the gutter. I don't know, Brian, does this all sound crazy to you? What do you think?
I guess it would be interesting if, I wonder if these people who, go to Bohemian Grove and have burn effigies in front of a giant owl statue, I guess you'd have to hope, or you'd have to think that they're hoping that, I don't know, Jesus isn't real, right?
Yes.
What do they make of the UFO business? The people at the top. I guess it must be concerning if you have plans of like world domination and whatnot, and various lights in the sky are disrupting your plans. So it's hard to say. I don't know. It's hard to imagine that if you went and like press like the nuclear button, that like the hand of God is going to like basically come down and stop you.
Even in instances that do not involve weird UFO activity, right? Every time there's almost been a launch throughout the whole Cold War. Like there was some, I remember there was some Soviet commander who decided there was some radar malfunction or something, and they thought for a hot minute there, they were thinking the Soviet Union that the Americans had launched, and just something stayed the hand of the guy who had to make the decision in the Soviet Union to return fire, and he didn't do it, and it turned out to be some kind of a radar anomaly and not an actual emergency. Or there's the Cuban Missile Crisis. Like, it does seem like every time we go to the brink, something brings us back. It's like someone's scripted a movie, well, we can't have it. It's like we're wearing plot armor, that the phrase plot armor, where a character can't be killed because they're Batman, and obviously we know Batman's not going to be killed in the first half of this movie because Warner Brothers wants to put out 9 more Batman movies after this. Plot armor. It does seem like we're operating with a set of plot armor here, at least with respect to our nuclear stockpile. I don't know. Man,
I don't know. Maybe I hope so.
Yeah, it could be an incredibly naive opinion. It certainly has that potential.
Well, I do think that our world leaders would like to depopulate the Earth. Like, wasn't Bill Gates going on about the Earth needs like to depopulate? Wasn't that his thing? Trump he was beating?
I don't know. Maybe, but can ChatGPT confirm that Gates is on about depopulation? I mean, that guy certainly has been. Right, the man. Every time you turn on a PC, we have to pay a little fin to Bill Gates. Right, he is sitting on the Windows and the Microsoft Office platforms, which are ubiquitous, and so he just gets paid all of these billions of dollars. He's like involved in these, he's involved in a lot of these political initiatives, involving vaccines or involving the future, or trying to plot human course. He's really wants to involve himself in that. So what does ChatGPT have to say?
Well, ChatGPT says that Gates has said that improving healthcare, vaccines, and education, especially for girls and women, tends to lead to lower birth rates over time. So he has promoted depopulation. He has not promoted depopulation as a goal. Is what ChatGPT is saying. So,
All right.
I don't know. I think I think our elected leaders. I think the people in charge. I don't know if I trust ChatGPT.
Right. It's a tool of the billionaire class. So is it going to be honest with us? I also think skeptically about ChatGPT.
I mean, it just is a good question. Like what plan do I mean? Well, the World Economic Forum says they want us to own nothing and be happy. Right. That was a big deal back in the, leading up to COVID there.
Yeah, I think we can definitely say the billionaires have got plans for the rest of us, right? They're at the top of the pile. They exist at the tippy top of a huge hierarchy, and so that's why they want so badly to retard the status quo. They want to keep the current system as long as they can, and then when the current system passes into history, as it inevitably must, as all things of human artifice eventually must, or they would like to migrate us all into another system where they're also at the tippy top of the hierarchy. But what are the odds that they're going to be able to pull this off? I mean, just the way that me trying to make plans in my personal life, trying to make some order out of the chaos, and so often the whole thing goes foobar for reasons of just random chaos. Man, it sure seems like that would be a nearly impossible project for them to pull off. How much power do you really have, even if you're a billionaire? You may be able to buy American politicians, but can you really control the entropy that is one of the defining characteristics of the observable universe? It seems unlikely to this observer, particularly because the UFOs like to come around and turn off our nukes for us. I mean, that really is a suspicious thing.
Man, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a bias wherein just nothing, it hasn't happened yet. So, but
survivorship bias, I think, is the term that we just gotten lucky so far. So you might assume you're blessed by the gods, but like I mentioned earlier, that may be an ignorant or naive thing to take away from the history of the Cold War and the nuclear arms race thus far.
Well, it's just another crazy thing that suggests that the UFOs are not just mere imaginations and hysteria.
Yeah.
And I guess I like the idea that deep in some underground bunker, some shadowy figures are trying to enact their plans for world domination, but unfortunately they're running up against those guardrails of which you mentioned. Some kind of UFOs or I don't know. Obviously, there's been a lot of cataclysm and whatnot in over the decades, but only until recently has nuclear cataclysm that could possibly affect the force of Gaia or whatever at the heart of the Earth to really cause some serious destruction. So I guess if you were some UFOs, that's when you would show up, and you wouldn't exactly care about the fall of Rome or some other lesser civilization.
Yeah, I think about the Bronze Age collapse or the Black Death. But then, of course, there's that author, Jason Giorgiani, who suggests that the Black Death was really perpetrated by aliens, going around intentionally spreading germs. That they tried this in the 1200s. They tried it again in the 1300s, and with the idea of derailing the coming Renaissance, right? With the idea of altering the intellectual thought of the Renaissance to triumph the illusion of individual or self or ego over the true Platonic ascent out of ego. That's how you achieve immortality. And speaking of that, I've been reading some interesting Bible quotes lately. I've had my Bible cracked open to the Book of Genesis, and I don't know if anyone out there has actually sat down and read the Book of Genesis, but it is absolutely wild, and I've got a few Bible quotes here to whet the appetite of our system failure listeners. I really enjoyed one of my favorite. Whenever the lovely Tracy suggests that I should do something I don't want to do, I've got this. I love Genesis chapter 3, verse 17, and this is the Adam and Eve have eaten of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and in punishment, God is casting the pair, the happy couple, out of the Garden of Eden, and so the curse of Adam, God is pronouncing the curse on Adam for his punishment for eating of the forbidden fruit. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. My favorite thing to, when Tracy has an idea about something I should do, and I do not feel like hearkening unto the voice of my wife, I like to dust off that Bible quote and provide some scriptural reasons why I should do what I want and not what Tracy wants. Very funny for me. Yeah, the joke has run thin for her, but I still get a good belly laugh each and every time. The reason I bring this quote up is because just a few lines later, that is Genesis chapter 3, verse 17. Genesis chapter 3, verse 22. Now God has cast Adam and Eve out the garden, and he's walking around, and this is just so odd. Now, this is all the 1611 King James rendition, right? So this is like one of the first English versions of the Bible. This is like Shakespeare time English, and it's one of the oldest, as English speakers, it's one of the oldest accesses we have. One of the earliest hatches, we have to go through and read this text. But verse 22 is bizarre, and I shall recount it for you now. And the Lord God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil, and now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever. Like, what is like God? The Old Testament of the Bible is much older than monotheism, or it's like monotheism is kind of projected backward onto these most oldest books that we have, and it's just bizarre that God is referring to himself, presumably in the plural, that man may become as one of us. Like, what is God? Is very, very strange language. It's almost as if you put a class, we are always trying to put the class-based lens on like the news here on the Old System Failure podcast, and if you this starts to look like, right, the whole thing about the class structure is that there's a fugazi on, right? There's like a bunch of people that do a whole bunch of work, and then other people get to benefit from that work, and the beliefs that you have about why, the people, the lucky minority who get to receive everyone's labor, and not in why they're not one of the ones doing the work, but the ones consuming labor instead, right? It's like, well, if you're one of the people that works and someone else consumes your labor, you work for someone else's benefit, you're going to have to believe something, maybe something unlikely, that's going to make you do that, right? If you're wondering if someone is serving someone else, and you're wondering which one of those people is the one who believes in some kind of a fugazi or some kind of believes something that just ain't true, it's going to be the person doing the serving, waiting hand and foot on the other person, right? It's going to be the person who's being waited on who is perpetuating the fugazi, and it's going to be the person doing the serving who believes, whatever this unlikely idea is. So it's interesting that dynamic is here. The gods are saying, well, geez, man's going to they're going to become like us. That's not good. What if they find out? That's essentially what God is saying here. What if man finds out? We'll be screwed. That's just what these people the Bill Gateses of the world, they must be lying awake at night worrying that we're all going to find out, whatever it is, we're going to become hip to the scam, the class structure that we're all participating in. But that's not even close to the weirdest quotes from Genesis that I wanted to bring up today. Because if you move your Bible forward a few chapters to Genesis chapter 6, well, now things get really, really strange. Now we weave UFOs into the conversation, because the first couple verses of chapter 6 involve hybrids between like angels and men, like hybrid species, and also giants walking upon the face of the earth. So just check out these first couple passages. This is Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And I'll just go 2 more verses here. And the Lord God said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Now here's verse 4, chapter 6, verse 4 of Genesis. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. What is that? So there's giants on the earth and these men of renown. The sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bear children, and those children become mighty men. I mean, who like presumably live longer than the 120 years that normal people live according to the Bible. So it's just really strange that that's in Genesis. Like, I do not know why the churches don't talk about this. This would be a fascinating Sunday sermon, but if you go sit in the pews at your local church, they're never going to talk about this crazy stuff. But it really does. So just a final note here: the name, the collective name in Hebrew for the supposed the sons of God, right? The supposed sons of God is Nephilim, which means the fallen ones, the ones who fall from the sky. Nephilim, that's the Hebrew word. It's the oldest word we have from the Old Testament, right? So the Nephilim, the angels falling from the sky, fallen angels, if you will, right, are the ones mating with the daughters of men and creating this race of hybrids, according to Genesis chapter 6. It's like unmistakable in the language. And that really, it really seems like we're talking about a class structure here, where you've got, what's really going, like if humans are some kind of a weird hybrid or something like that, or we're half angels or something, or there were half angels on the planet, it really does seem like, we were talking about some kind of a weird hierarchy, which there's people who aren't supposed to know what's really going on. That's us. We're just kind of the tax cattle or whatever, and that strange beings falling from the sky are like mating with and mixing with human children. It really evokes this idea, like the Luciferian idea that Lucifer is the good guy in this story, right? There's this idea that Lucifer, meaning the light bringer, is really just a reimagination of the pagan Prometheus, right? Prometheus is one of these half gods, half people, who his crime is stealing fire from the gods and turning it over to regular people. And his punishment for the theft is to be chained to a rock and have birds peck at his liver each day, which and then regrows at night, so he just has to suffer it continuously. But the idea here is that Lucifer is bad because he's turned over technology to the people. He's took technology from the gods and gave it to people. What it sounds like is that in this interpretation, right, if Lucifer is really Prometheus, that what Lucifer/Prometheus is a class traitor who has taken the technology that give his people an advantage over the tax cattle or whatever we are to them, and has, and because of this because he's betrayed his economic class, Prometheus has to have his liver pecked out every night, or every day, or Lucifer is recast as the devil, by the Christian church. That's what the Christian church does, right? They have their own Eucharist, and the people who the classic goddess cults who had a rival Eucharist, right? Although they became the evil witches brewing up potions in the woods that you can't, they're the consort of the devil. Or like the trident of Neptune, becomes like the pitchfork of the devil. Every competitor to the Roman Catholic Church becomes the devil ultimately. And so what if the same thing happened to Lucifer? What if he's just Prometheus, but turned into a devilish form to scare people away from ever looking under that rock, and in that way perpetuate some kind of a class structure that some kind of a larger class structure we're all living in. I don't know, Brian. Pretty crazy stuff. You'd never hear about those wild Bible quotes in Sunday school, eh?
I didn't go to Sunday school.
Well, we went to Baha'i Sunday school, and we didn't hear about any of these wild Bible quotes in Baha'i Sunday school either.
Yeah. Well, do they actually talk about Lucifer in the Bible? I don't. I don't know.
I don't think that they do. Like the Old Testament in particular is not going to have talk about Lucifer. But let me just look up Lucifer in the Bible and see what what the chats say. Okay. Oh, Lucifer appears once in the King James Bible in Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. I did not know that. Translated from the Hebrew Hellel, shining one, to mean morning star, describing a fallen king of Babylon, not as a proper name for Satan. Interesting.
Well, In any case, I mean, the story of Genesis is like the story of the Abrahamic peoples who have kind of come to dominate the earth, or at least Western society. I don't know if I would take it literally, but it certainly like makes sense from like a metaphorical stance. Humanity coming online, getting the knowledge of good and evil. I don't know. Maybe we were impregnated by some fallen angels.
It could be. One thing seems for sure. The book of Genesis is telling us that we have had a fugazi perpetrated upon us and that we are not allowed to know certain forbidden knowledges. And boy, that sure is interesting in the context of this broader discussion of UFOs and nuclear missiles and lights over New Jersey and the class structure, but our economic system is on its, is long in the tooth. It sure is one hell of an interesting time to be alive, I would say.
Indeed.
Well, let's see. I think we got time for one more topic today. What do you think, Brian? We're already pushing an hour here, but we want to talk about immigration with respect to the recent goings-on in Minnesota and Maine. As mentioned on one or two podcasts ago, Maine gets we keep getting secondary mentions on the Breaking Points news channel. Not always a good thing. But what has happened this week is that the Trump administration seems to have waved the white flag on their ongoing deployment of federal agents into Minnesota to a larger extent and Maine to a lesser extent. And they're going to walk this back. But one of our podcasters who we enjoy listening to, the comedian Dave Smith, had a really interesting point about this whole idea of the Donald waving the white flag. See, he pointed out that Trump administration waved the white flag on mass deportations way back in May of 2025. I wonder if we could roll the clip from Mr. Smith's recent podcast just to give credit to this guy who brought this to my attention. I had forgotten that I had forgotten or hadn't heard about the Trump administration's actions of last summer. So let's fire it up, Brian, if we can.
But so Donald Trump had this moment, and he had an incredible mandate. It's really the story of Donald Trump's immigration policy is just kind of like the story of Donald Trump's entire presidency, really. Unbelievable opportunity, but it was going to take some real skill in exactly how to wield this power, how to get the most juice for your squeeze. And what Donald Trump did, and a lot of people kind of forget this, but Donald Trump took this moment to do two major things. Now, the two things that Donald Trump did were, number one, he immediately jumped on an effort to deport legal residents who were criticizing Israel. So he immediately took this moment where people were pretty much on his side and went, let me do this in the most controversial way on the most controversial issue that will turn a whole lot of people off and doesn't move the needle one way or the other in terms of demographics. And then the second thing he did, Rob, if you remember this, was he announced we won't be doing mass deportations. I mean, the way Donald Trump said it was something like, in the Trumpian way. Oh, we got great people in hospitality and farming. They've been here 10, 20 years. I mean, yeah. AKA, in other words, if you need the political translation to that, Donald Trump didn't just pick farming and hospitality as the only things that matter. In other words, Rob, translation, big business doesn't want this. It's a pretty big dynamic of why we've had the immigration policies we've had to begin with, by the way. I know when you see 10 million migrants pour over the borders in just a few years, you may go, this is out of control. Big business sees a lot of cheap labor. And so just to be clear, Donald Trump walked away from mass deportations almost a year ago. There is absolutely no plan to do mass deportations. No one is suggesting that. Donald Trump's not doing that.
Yeah, I went back and I'd forgotten or never knew that this took place. And so just to check on our friend Mr. Smith, I went back in time on the Wall Street Journal and found their article from June 14th, 2025. And the headline is, Trump pauses immigration arrests at farms, hotels, and restaurants. And the sub-headline reads, new DHS guidance reflects a policy shift after efforts to boost arrest numbers led to protests. Yeah, that's it, man. Donald Trump's actual quote on Truth Social went, our great farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good long-time workers away from them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace. Fascinating. So really, yeah, it's like that really throws these enforcement efforts in Maine and Minnesota into sharp relief, right? It's like, if you're not going to deport people from farms, from restaurants, and from hotels, well, then you're not really seriously addressing the huge bump in illegal migration under the Biden administration. Or we're just not going to address the actual problem of immigration at all. This is all political theater, right? And what's going on what is it that's special about the states of Maine and Minnesota? Well, these are northern states on the Canadian border who have vastly fewer numbers of potential migrants than obviously southern states would. New Mexico, Arizona, California, Texas, Florida. These states have much higher levels of illegal immigration, obviously. So any serious attempt to enforce immigration policy would have to involve southern states, and it would have to involve hammering employers, right? If you wanted to prevent illegal immigration, you just fine the hell out of employers who work with undocumented immigrants, right? It would be that easy. You don't need masked thugs roaming the streets of Minneapolis and Maine. You need the IRS or some other federal enforcement agency to hammer employers in the southern states. We're never going to do that because those businesses, the hotels, the farms, the restaurants, they contribute mightily to the Trump campaign. So really what's going on here, I think this has to do with the fact that the governor of Minnesota is Tim Walz, the running mate to Kamala Harris in the 24 election, and an outspoken critic of the Trump regime ever since. And of course, our own dear governor, the aforementioned Commandant Janet Mills, right? It's like she was in a dispute with the Trump administration last summer, as you may recall, Brian, with respect to something about transgender athletes, something like that.
In federal funding
for whatever it was. She ended up in like a public butting heads, and so it is specifically Maine and Minnesota that have been the targets of this political theater, right? It's not a serious attempt to deport anyone. It's just a way of projecting political power, or perhaps stirring a pot and creating chaos that might be a pretext for greater seizure of power down the line, or something like that, right? So this is all just to say we are being treated to a show, and all the world's a stage, the men and women merely players, right? It's like it's just that's a great point by Dave Smith that I hadn't thought of, so I just thought it would be worth highlighting on our own platform here, Brian.
Well, I think you'd have to say that it's a failure in terms of projecting federal power over these states, right?
Yeah.
And Donald Trump has up and embarrassed himself in this endeavor.
Yeah, it's destroyed his whatever his approval ratings might be, and is not going to be helpful to keeping a balance between Republicans and Democrats during the upcoming midterms, right? You're going to get a bloodbath in the midterms. Everyone already hates the Donald administration for not releasing the Epstein files, for getting us into more wars, for doing nothing on the spiraling affordability crisis that's confronting the middle and lower classes. And now this, masked agents dragging people who are fixtures in their community but may not have legal documentation, or maybe do have legal documentation in some cases, dragging them, terrorizing them for no gain. We're not helping at all on the immigration front or the presence of undocumented workers. We're just doing nothing on that front. It's all a big show, fugazi, and so it fits in with our earlier theme of keeping the lower classes compliant, keeping them going to work every day. Not having the system break down, trying to enforce the status quo. It's all about fooling. We're all being fooled, right? All the world's a stage, as I say.
Yeah, well, obviously it's more important to create these distractions and have people squabble on Facebook and Reddit and Twitter so that nothing positive happens.
Yes, that's it. You got to get the pitchfork people and the torch people to fight each other so that no one comes over the castle wall to challenge the king for power, no matter how negligent the king may have been in his economic policies.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right, Brian. Well, I guess that's it for today. We'll leave it there. But I do want to invite all of you, within the sound of my voice, to pay us a little visit at systemfailure.org. There you can read the weekly essays written by yours truly. They're actually getting good, whereas my older essays, were when I look back on them now, they seem cringy compared to the newer ones. I think you'll really like what you read there. The common theme that links them all together is, of course, the idea that we live in a false or artificial reality, and that is what the class structure, the economic class structure, really is. Anyhow, sign up over at systemfailure.org. Get those weekly essays delivered each and every Sunday morning to your email inbox. And if you want to get in touch with either Brian or myself, why, you can accomplish that over on the About page simply by clicking on the appropriate name. Alrighty, folks, Brian and I will be back next week with another regularly scheduled. Can't wait to talk to you all then. In the meantime, have a fantastic week.
All right, see you, folks.